See what happens. Okay. Broadcast is live. And I'm showing up, Corey, but you're not on the live stream. So you gotta click. Yeah, you can hear me. So you see the gear down. There's a gear where your picture is on the bottom part of the screen. Like, okay, go to the gear and make sure it's go into video settings, and then set the video setting. So whatever your camera is, are you using a laptop or using a Logitech or something? Mhm. Because on the Facebook stream you can see me and you can't see you. Hey everyone. Let's see. Okay. No, you can't hear you on the screen. I can only hear you on the phone. Hey everyone, can you hear me? Just say yes, you can hear me in the comments on Facebook. Hey guys. Okay, so Corey, they can hear me, not you. So you got to go into that little gear shift and change the video setting, and then change the audio setting. What browser are you using? Huh. Oh, you just disconnected. Yeah, maybe try to come back in. No problem. Sure. Uh huh. Yeah. Oops. I can get started too, Corey, if you want. I can talk forever. Okay. Sure. Okay, cool. All right, guys, I'm going to get started here. Feel free to, as we're going, to type in questions on Facebook because I'll be happy to answer any questions as Corey gets his technical stuff going. That's the thing, right? Technology is always when you haven't used it in a while, it's always hard to get it on track. And Be Live, for whatever reason, is sometimes has bugs. I use StreamYard now, Corey, and it seems to be better. Um, I was using Be Live before, which streams online to Facebook. But anyhow, well, my name is Beau Eckstein. I've been in real estate for 20 years. Originally got started. I, I tried to go to college after graduating high school and messed around for a few years. And I really always knew I wanted to get in real estate. So pretty much dropped out of college and got started in the loan business in California and had to get my real estate license there to actually do loans. And I worked in the residential broker space for many years. I moved to Nevada, opened a branch for this big residential company, and kind of cut my teeth in real estate there first. And then in did that for years. Was out of most of my friends, I was like the first guy making six figures. Brokering loans, so I was doing pretty good back then. And then I decided to open a branch of this mortgage company in Nevada. Bought all sorts of properties throughout Las Vegas and Reno area back in 2006 and 5, 6, and 7. And then, of course, in 2007, the writing was on the wall that the economy was going to be hit hard. And little did I know, so hard. And long story short, I sold what I could, and I pretty much lost many houses, ruined my credit, and realized that I didn't really know much about real estate investing. And oops, I don't know if are we live? I think we're still live, but anyway, let me just see if we're live still. Anyways, I can't tell if we're live right now. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. Yes, you're live. Oh, thank you. Okay. Sorry, guys. And so lost everything. I ended up moving back to the Bay Area, California, with my tail between my legs. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do? The mortgage business is completely shut down. I have my real estate license. Oh, there's Corey. Okay, now your sound.
This is better.
Now I got you. All right.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Sorry about that. So you can continue because you were on a roll, Bo, and this is so important for other real estate investors. You can't always figure things out yourself. And Bo helped me a lot in this business, and he was there to kind of take it. So I apologize about
Oh,
that. I
no,
should have
no
tested
problem.
it.
No problem. There's always. So, anyways, going back to the story. So, moved back to the Bay Area in 2007. I I I was so leveraged at the time that I knew right off the bat I was screwed. And little did I know that it would be that bad. But that's when we hit. In Nevada at the time, I mean, property values went down to 60%. So it was just really bad. And so when I moved back to California, I was like, well, all I know is real estate. And so I started studying investing. Like I had owned a lot of houses, but I didn't really understand the concepts behind real estate and to make good bets and good investments. And I reflect now as like there's some uncertainty in the market right now. I don't think it's going to be that bad as far as the housing market. I don't think it's going to get like we might have some price drops, but it's not going to be like it was in 2007, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
But I do think there'll be some stress, obviously, with so many people out of work and they won't be going back to work for a while. That'll create opportunities like it did in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? We've been in a, it was an amazing market. If you just got started in real estate investing in 2009 and just bought something, and held on to it, you would think you were just a rocket science, right? Scientist, because, in California, if it bought something, it appreciated probably 50, 60, 70%. So a lot of my friends that got started, after the downturn, everything they've done has been pretty much golden because the market's just escalated. Well, now we're back in a position of transition, um, which is just what happens in real estate. There's the market can't always go up, rents can't always go up, and once in a while there's unexpected things. There's collapses in the economy for certain industries that go under and things, and we're in a just an unexpected time. um, but I think now there with social media, it's a lot easier to kind of learn, and train, and there's so many free resources out there and paid resources to kind of educate you on what to do and what not to do. And I think like today, if I could look back and, like I bought my first house at 23 years old in San Ramon, California, and I bought it creative financing. I didn't even know anything about real estate, but I bought it on a lease option, and then I was able to refinance it and option and exercise the option. And the time I had it in contract at 325, that was my set price, and then the time I went to go buy it, it was worth, or close on the, or exercise the option, was worth 375. That's when it really clicked in. When I was like 23 years old. I go, wow, I made $50,000 of equity by just being, I needed a place to live, and I just did some creative structuring. So when it comes down to it, I think, there's a combination of things we all need to know, which is, how to finance properties with hard money, with, private money, how to structure deals subject to, there's a lot of good trainings out there, buying properties subject to the existing mortgage, knowing the ins and outs of that. And and then, it's a natural progression. So, fast forward to 2009, I got into the hard money lending business, and I started working with a fund that was kind of one of the only games in town at the time. And then now, you look at it, there's the Lima ones, there's all these companies, that kind of popped out of the woodworks. But back then it was easy because there wasn't that much money floating around in the hard money lending space. So we were, it was more of the mom and pop hard money funds. And then it got institutionalized in like 2010, where, 2014, a lot of these Wall Street companies came in and things like that, and then it compressed rates. And then, back in the day it was 10%, 3 4 points, then it got compressed down to 8% and 1 point, right? So it's been good for the borrowers. Well, now because of COVID, a lot of those companies are out of business right now, or halted. So, I guess, there's lessons learned in all these market cycles. And then, all I can say is the best advice I have for anybody out there is, constantly learn and constantly figure out how to grow your business, whether you're just getting started. And maybe if you're just getting started, you do your first property, which is a house hack, right? You go in and you buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, and you use FHA financing because it's owner occupied, and you only have to put 3.5% down, right? That's a great way to get started investing, right? You live in one unit, you rent the three out, you're cash flowing, you build some equity in that property, you refinance it, you go buy something else with an FHA loan, you do it again and then again and again, and you could just do simple techniques like that to really, over the next 10 years, to really grow your net worth. And I think that's the key of all of this. It's little slow steps that get you there. So from 2000, I'd say 9 to, present, I started flipping houses, and I don't really love flipping houses, but it is a great business if you get it down. I like to more do like the whole hotel stuff where you go in and you just do cosmetic fixes, you buy cheap. And I'm also a real estate broker, so I can list it. I save money on the selling portion of it too. So I can do deals a little bit more narrow than people and be a little bit more creative in that component. So I advise, people that it's a good thing to get your real estate license sometimes, if you're, because when you're not flipping houses, problem with a lot of flippers that just focus on flipping is they don't have money for the in between times. And as an investor friendly agent, wholesaler, flipper, you could sell houses during the, so you always have that money coming in, because that's the key, right? To have the money coming in. And then once you kind of have a little bit of stability, then I think you got to go into burring properties, essentially buying, fixing, and then refinancing and taking your money back out. And I did that, and in 2000, I don't know, 14 or 15, I went into Indiana and started buying properties. And I really like the Midwest type markets, or markets like that, that you can get like 2x your the cash in, you get 2x in rent. So if I could be all in on a property, I'd say $40,000 purchase and rehab, and I could get $800 in rent. To me, that's a great buy, and I do those all the time. And then when I started doing that model, I learned about using other people's money through self-directed IRAs, right? And they became my bank, because on the smaller properties, it's very hard to fund with hard money. Hard money wants to do 100,000 plus typically. I mean, they'll do as little as 75, and there's some smaller funds that will do, if they're local to the market, they'll do the smaller deals. But so I went in and did that, and then I would make sure that the property, when I was done fixing it, would be worth 75 plus, because then I knew I could refinance it with a portfolio loan. And that's what I've been doing, is refinancing them. So, I mean, that is a great model to get in. So I would do these with 100% financing, because I would borrow money from their IRA. They'd lend me purchase price plus rehab costs. I'd fix the property, I'd stabilize it, put a tenant in, and then now I have an asset worth 80,000. I'd refinance in a portfolio loan for 30-year fixed, and that on the portfolio loan, it's just based on the debt service coverage ratio, so they don't look at your tax returns. So there's that was an easy strategy, and I still love that strategy. Now I'm trying to do that with multifamily properties, the same concept, burring multifamily properties, because I think that's the space to be in for to increase cash flow. Because getting started, they always tell you to this is what I was taught, at least, is add up all your expenses, what it costs you to live, mortgage, everything. And let's say it costs you $7,000 or $5,000 a month with everything. 5,000, let's use that number. Your first goal to financial freedom is to, obviously, if you can cut some of that fat and cut it down to $4,000 a month, that's great. But let's say you can't. 5,000 is your cost to live with food and everything. You got to build a rental portfolio, and your goal is to get your net passive income, after you pay all your expenses, to 5,000. Once you do that, you could essentially live off your rental income. I interviewed this girl from Arkansas, and she started investing in her 20s. Now she's 28 or 29, and she doesn't need to go do anything. I mean, she doesn't cash flow huge, but it covers all of her expenses, right? So getting started, that should be your goal. It's like, how can I replace my W-2 job, or my job, and buy passive income, and just set it up. Just write all your expenses out, what it costs you to live, food, entertainment, everything, whatever that number is. Your first goal is to say, okay, let's get enough passive income through rental properties, through investments, through businesses, where it's passive, where I on my rental properties now, all I have to do is check my monthly statement, right? That's all the work I have to do now. Obviously, once in a while, there's an issue, something's broken, that's a major, but uh, but realistically, I'm spending just 20 minutes a month on those properties. And so the goal now for me is to really grow that, right, Corey? Like, I want to grow that,
Right.
and the way to supercharge that too is then in between those, but the buying and acquisition, and repositioning these rental properties, is the wholesale deals, right? Or maybe it's the sell houses, because you got to make that income until you get to that financially free limit. But eventually, for me, I don't, I would rather live, because once you're a real estate professional deemed by the IRS, you have a lot of write-offs that you don't as a normal person. So essentially, the more real estate you own, the more write-offs you have, and basically, in a nutshell, it can zero out most of your income, so you pay very little taxes. So that's also another great thing to do. So that's kind of the fundamentals. And then now, fast forward to that to today, excuse me. Um, I decided, like, I still do my fix and flip loans for borrowers. My core business is lending, but I do a lot now. What I'm doing too is I work for a direct lender, and we do big HUD loans. So I might do a loan like the other day. I've got three separate loans and all for the same borrower, and it's probably a combined loan amount of $35 million. Right. So like if I close one of those are huge paydays for me. So then I go out and then I take my strategy and I find a market like where I'm at is South Bend, Indiana right now, because it's good cash flow, good. So I go there and then I can go pay cash for houses, right? Then I can have this house that I just bought. I'm all in at 30,000 or 25,000 or 40,000, and it's paying me 800, $1,000 a month minus expenses every month. So that's paying me $700 or $800 net every month now for the rest of my life, other than repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, right? So if you just think about that, every rental property you go get is going to pay you for your lifetime, right? Like, and so whether you can, and a lot of these times you can be creative and get in with zero money. You buy subject to, you buy on a lease option. You can use other people's money, and so that's what I'm constantly studying and learning from others on how to effectively do this. And then, the progression then is to eventually be able to take down 100 or 200 unit buildings. And that's using other people's money. So one of my mentors, that's what he does. And he's able to buy $50 million properties. So, but it's all baby steps. You got to take the action.
And that's actually a show that you're going to be having on. Is that Vinny?
Yeah.
um, and you have those shows on Fridays, which is really cool to listen to. Um, I had a question because you mentioned something. I was listening to one of the shows that you had with Michael, and he spoke about private money lending. And right now, your main business, bread and butter is lending. Where do you see the market right now? Because a lot of our cash buyers kind of are trying to figure out where they get their funds from, because a lot of them are getting them from hard money lenders that were in. And I know you've been talking about this a lot. We had a conversation about it. But what's kind of like going on with the hard money right now? Is it gone, or can
Uh,
people still do deals in this market?
so no, it's still there, but it's a lot more conservative. We were lending at 90% of purchase and 100% of repair cost. So, that was for an experienced borrower, but that's high leverage. Traditionally, hard money loan was only 65% of the as is value, right? And then because the institutional investors came in, it compressed everything, and everybody got more aggressive to compete. Well, now institutional money, the way that most of these guys, they were like selling off to Wall Street and they were securitizing and doing all this crazy stuff, they're not there's no liquidity in that market. So those players are kind of at halt. There's a few that are still going right now, but a lot of them are halted right now. So after this, now everybody's coming back in the market and they're starting a new what we call a credit box, and they're saying, okay, well, now instead of doing 85% of purchase and 100% of repair costs, we're going to do 65 or 70% of purchase and 100% of repair costs. But some of them are saying, well, we'll do 70% of purchase, but we want the borrower to bring in 6 months of principal or interest only payments, right? So it's essentially a lower loan to value. So now, as a borrower, you have to come in with more money, period, on everything. Every loan
Now,
out
does
there right now.
does that money have to be yours, or could you borrow it? Like if it was like 30 grand, I'm in a market where our median price point's 200,000.
Yeah.
Could I
So
borrow that from a credit card or something like that?
sure, sure. So you can borrow from credit cards and stuff. Some of the lenders don't want a second deed of trust on the property, or a second lien on the property or mortgage, depending if you're in a trust deed state or a mortgage state. Some of them say no, we don't want subordinate financing whatsoever. Some of them don't care. So when you're talking to a loan officer, it's important to tell them, hey, I'm going to be getting a second lien. I'm getting gap funding, whatever people like to call it.
Or
But
just
you can,
be upfront
yeah,
about it, but it's not going to be as a deed. It's not going to be on the second or third mortgage.
right. I mean, and some lenders still allow it. Some lenders don't care, but the institutional lenders out there, they don't like it. They won't allow it. So you just need to know that. So so what I did in the beginning, and I still do, is I would go and get a loan from a hard money lender that was okay with me getting a second deed of trust or a second mortgage, and They would lend me 80% of purchase and 100% of rehab, right? So I needed to come in with 20% plus carrying costs and stuff. So then I get a gap funder. So that loan gets recorded first, and I get a gap funder. Maybe it's somebody's IRA money. They lend me the down payment plus carrying costs, everything. I'm calculating everything, and I'm not saying I could do it in 3 months. I'm setting the right expectations, so I have like 6 or 7 months when it's a 3 month project, because you don't want to run out of money and then have to go ask the lender for money again that's lending the gap fund. So just be, when you're running your analysis, add a couple months buffer, because things always take longer and things always cost more. We know that. Anybody who's ever flipped a house knows that. um, it's hard to pinpoint stuff exactly in the flipping business, and some of them go great, and a lot of them don't go great, and you have to work problems out. So then I would get a first deed of trust, and then the gap funder would lend a second, and I would either do it as straight debt, or they would be get a portion of the profit. So they could be an equity partner, or they could just be the second lien bank, essentially, right? So when I started, I partnered with a contractor and a money guy, or money girl, money guy, and we just would split deals 3 ways. But I'd fund these, none of my own money. And then it progressed where I would just cut everybody out and just get one funding partner, right? But you got to figure out who you have around you, but you definitely need a financial friend network. That's the key, right? Because people that, when I go buy these things in Indiana, it's great. I mean, I could buy as many as I want, really. I mean, my problem there is not boots on the ground. And so if you have boots on the ground, that makes a big difference if you're buying out of state. But so going back to it all is that things have changed. Will things open up a little bit? Yes, but I don't think it's going to get back to where it was for a long time, because when you really think about it, it's kind of risky to lend that high of leverage, right? 90% of
Yeah.
purchase. I mean, so how do you vet a borrower? This is important. So like I get hit up all the time, and people are like, well, hey, I'm looking for 85 or 90% of purchase and 100% of repair costs. Here are the common things you need to know to let your lender know is, they want to know, like, first off, how many deals have you done, right? Like, you need a track record. You need a track record. You should have an Excel spreadsheet with all the properties you've ever done, and in a spreadsheet, because they're going to ask for it. All the institutional lenders, they want to know. So how many deals you've done, and purchase price, rehab costs. They want to see a construction line item breakdown, and then they can give you a pretty fast answer of what they can do as far as loan to value. But right now, you're realistically looking at between 65 to 75% of purchase and 100% of repair costs on flip loans. There's exceptions, like I have some bridge lenders that do really high leverage stuff, but they charge a lot, right? You're talking about 11% and 6 points, but they'll lend off the ARV still. And there's still, those are more like niche lenders, but overall, and the difference too now is that the pricing went back up. So if you were an experienced borrower, you could get as cheap as like 8% in 1 point, 90% of purchase, 100% of rehab. Well, now you're looking at, kind of across the board, you're more at like 9, 9.5, and 2 points. So there's different because there's less capital, right? So what's going to happen? Price is going to go up because there's more demand for that limited capital.
So so for somebody that's, and I know you just kind of went through that, but somebody that's new, I was listening to what you and Michael were actually, and Ty actually in your group were talking about, and he said something that kind of hit me, was document value. And he said, what does that, he said, you know like somebody like yourself, you look at thousands of deals. How does somebody attract money? Because I get it. Like, you don't go raise money, it gets attracted. How does somebody attract money? Because I think that's a big barrier for people, to get into this business. Is it them? Is it the deal? Like, what can people do if they've never done deals before? Like you've kind of been talking about how you got started, and you had this lender, and how does somebody do that? And then what if they've done a few deals and they've always used hard money lenders, right? How do they attract more money? Those are two questions. Sorry.
Right. So how do you track more money is that you need to document your experience. Like, you got to show people, and that's as simple as before and after photos on a Facebook page, or and then create your spreadsheet. Here's the deals I've done over the last 36 months. Like if somebody comes to me and they have a spreadsheet and they go, here's all the deals I've done for the last 36 months, and there's 35 deals on there. I'm like, wow, this is somebody, who's going to be a good borrower most likely, right? Versus somebody that says comes to you with nothing and wants to borrow everything, and like they're showing you comps. And then also when you bring a funding package to somebody, like you just got to have like, here's the comps, here's, I'm going to be all in here. Here's my exit price, and everything's lined right up there. I mean, it doesn't have to be that detailed, but it has to just be like somebody has to take a quick look and go, okay, this deal makes sense. I'm buying it for 100. I'm putting it in 50, and it's worth 230. And I'm going to get it done in 2 months. Here's my bid for my contractor, and here's my track record, and here's my credit score. And that's what you're getting judged on in this business, right? And if you don't have experience, then your best bet is to either wholesale or JV in the beginning and build your track record, build your business, because that's what they do in multifamily. See, in multifamily, if you don't have net worth or the liquidity requirements, typically on an agency loan for multifamily, if you're borrowing $5 million, your net worth has to be $5 million, and you have to have certain liquidity. So what they do in multifamily, and this is exactly what you should do in single family flipping and so forth, is you bring on somebody that has that part that you don't have, right? So that's what you might have to do, or you become an expert in creative finance, where you find people that want to sell to you on terms, or they want to sell to you, in a creative fashion, or maybe they own the property free and clear and they'll sell or finance it to you, or maybe they have a lot of equity and they'll carry back a second and you can get a hard money first. There's ways of doing it, but I think you got to be realistic getting started. So you got to educate yourself, you got to align yourself, and then you got to figure out, like, I mean, the reason it was a little bit maybe easier for me is because I've been in real estate for 20 years, right? Like I've had my real estate license, I've sold houses, I've financed houses, so I had an advantage. If you have no real estate experience, you need to be plugged in and just watching and learning, and then going and networking with people, and then become a really good deal finder. And then once you become a really good being a deal finder is the biggest piece of this all. If you're a good deal finder, you just got to network with the right people and say, hey, I'm going to find good deals, and then I don't have the capital right now, but I want to partner with you. And then you got to figure out a structure with that partner, and then you do a deal and close on it, or maybe you wholesale it and you work your way on to say, hey, I'll wholesale the deal, but like if you sell it for the projected amount, kick me something on the back end, or maybe they keep you in as a smaller piece on it and you get paid a little upfront fee. But that's kind of the way I would say to get started. I mean, right now versus 3 months ago, it's a lot harder to finance properties, and most people don't have cash around to put down 30% right now. So you got to find funding partners. You got to find people that have money, and then they utilize your skill. But if you don't have any skills, then nobody's going to want to do business with you. You have to gain skills, right? Like, right, Corey? Like 6 years ago, you started, like, you were out there whenever it was, like a long time ago,
I
and you were
followed you. I was around I came to your office.
and you were looking at deals, and then over time, that's what you right? Because you didn't have money. You're like, well, how can I make money? It's because, and then look what happened now. You became a pretty, you did a bunch of deals last year, and you're going to do more and more and more because you figured out, like, hey, without money, but I can use this and I can hustle and I can become a really good deal finder. And that's what you did. And now over time, it's going to progress where you're going to be making a lot of money, where you're going to start doing a lot more buy and holds for yourself, right? And then I mean, because I think at the end of the day, you can build it as a business where you can kind of step back and it's going to run, right? If you look at a lot of the elite level investors, and that's definitely what you can do. But for me, I look at it and go, really, what I want is just X amount of cash flow, net cash flow coming in, and I don't have to really operate any other businesses. That's my goal, right? Like, then I can do what I really want to do. And so you got to figure out what motivates you the most. Some people love just the high volume wholesale business, and that's great, right? They like to, like, they're crushing it. They're making 1 million, 2 million bucks a year. These elite level guys, and that's great. But I would suggest during the slow times, it's always good to be able to go and get your statement from your property manager, and you're like, whoa, cool. these batch of houses just paid me 5 grand this month. This one paid me $1,800 this month, right? And like, the once you get that up, tonight we're interviewing two guys and they make probably 100 grand plus a month in just passive cash flow. We're interviewing Thatch, Thatch from
Yeah,
Washington.
I've
And
heard of him. I don't know who he is, but I've
yeah,
heard of him and I
so
checked out.
so he's a Vietnamese dude. Basically came to America with nothing and got his real estate license and started selling houses, became an investor. Now he's, building 100 unit apartment complexes. But there's a dude that just straight hustled, and now I think he just turned 50 years old. I mean, he's got Ferraris. He's got $100,000 a month of cash flow coming in every month, and he didn't do it overnight, but he did it. And you can learn a lot from guys like that. And a lot of the guys I surround myself, what I learned about myself was that where I was weak was in my prospecting. And prospecting is the number one thing. If you want to make money the quickest, you have to be a good prospector. That's the
What do you
key.
mean? What do you mean prospecting for everything? Houses,
Yeah, yeah.
lenders.
So wherever you're kind of positioning, not everybody wants to wholesale properties, right? Some people
Right.
just, hey, I want to buy and fix and hold properties. So if that's the case, if I want to burr properties, that's what I did. I go, okay, well, I'm going to build a network of people that know, like, and trust me, and then I'm going to find really good deals in Indiana, and then I'm going to go to them and say, hey, would you? I'm going to teach them about, like, hey, you have that 50 grand sitting in this retirement account, not making any money. Maybe you can roll it into a self-directed account and then lend me the money, and then these people like it, right? Because they some not everybody's got $200,000 or $300,000 sitting in an account, but a lot of people have 50,000. And when you're buying smaller properties, 50,000 goes a long way. So, so prospecting for me would be to get 100 people or 50 people that have 50,000 bucks that want to lend money at 8 to 10%, and they don't mind putting up all the money for a project, and then I could leverage and get 100% financing and then refinance them out. So I prospect for people like that, and then at the same time I prospect for motivated sellers, right? But I prospect more as a component of, I want to buy your property. And what I should have done in the past is the ones I was passing on is I should have partnered with a wholesaler in that market, right? Because I was throwing away money. And I started doing that in one market, and I got a couple checks for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bucks by just referring a lead. So then you kind of start thinking about multiple strategies of income, right? Because you don't want to be one. Like, I would tell you, Corey, you don't want to have just your wholesale business, right? Like, I mean, you want to have, because some months you might get 5 deals, some months might be a zero, right? So you want to have two or three or four or five, six streams. I mean, the average millionaire, they always say, and I've never really verified this, but I believe it. The average millionaire has 7 streams of income,
I was about to
right?
say seven. Yeah, I've heard seven before.
So that's where I see, I'm always looking for ways where I can, and a lot of it's trial and error. I mean, you might get involved with something that's, after 3 weeks you're like, it's not me, but you have to try different things that work, and then you also have to go all in, on these things too, right? Like, you can't half-ass. I've half-assed enough in my life where I can tell you, like, for example, on these niche loans I'm doing for multifamily people, like, I know the writing's on the wall. I have to go all in and I can just reap the rewards. And I know I can make a tremendous amount of money and help a lot of people. And then I could take that money. So my plan, because I'm getting old, unfortunately.
You're young. Yeah.
Well, I look young, but well, I don't look that young. But the plan now for me is over the next 5 years is to make good money, in my business, what I'm doing in my loan business. I'm also a real estate broker. I make some referral income on different things, and then take that money and then buy cash flow all day long,
Let me
and
ask you
then
this.
uh-huh,
Because you say you're going to buy cash flow, and I know you mentioned that you're buying in Indianapolis, and we met in the Bay Area. We met in San Francisco, Walnut Creek, Concord, those areas, and you live in Vegas right now.
uh-huh.
How are you determining what a good rental is,
So you gotta, yeah, if you're gonna buy out of state,
and what makes cash flow? Like, because I've heard people say I only buy if it's 12%. What is from a hard money standpoint, lending standpoint, and from your personal standpoint? What how do you determine what a good rental is?
I do it the old-fashioned way. I mean, I have like different little spreadsheet calculators and stuff, but to be honest with you, I like to pencil things out still. I
Remember that
mean,
about you. You used to write stuff on envelopes.
yeah, well, that was kind of my problem. So, I mean, I just look at it this way. If I can be all in on a property, I want two times that amount in that amount in rent. So, I mean, I think I showed you that one. I bought a house for $9,600 and I put in 6 grand to fix it. So I'm in it, a little over $15,000 and it pays me $630 a month. And so what do I do is one is if you're investing out of state, like if I came to Savannah, first thing I would do is find a property manager that I like felt very comfortable with. Asked him or her a bunch of questions. Go, okay, like I want to like be able to call you on the phone, and I want you to tell me if I should buy this rental or not. And tell me what kind of tenant I'm going to most likely get in this house. You know, and then once you find that, and then you find your vendors because they usually have a good referral network of vendors, but you're going to still build your own vendor list. Then once you have that, I think it becomes kind of fairly easy. Then really what you need to know is then you just need to know what the rehab budget is going to be really to get it rent ready. And getting a house rent ready versus flipping a house is 10 times easier, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
how do you determine that? Because I have an issue, where the way we've been taught, I've been taught, and where I got my education from is to kind of do the rehab so that we can get the maximum value out of it. I'm having an issue just evaluating rental, like, because I hear people carpet paint, blah, 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 blah. But how is that even, how do you determine that?
yeah. Um, I mean, I think you got to get people that are going to give you good bids, and you got to get referrals from your property manager. A lot of times, your property manager can. You're going to start out with light remodels too. Like I started out with huge remodels, and I got my ass handed to me because I wasn't there. So start with cosmetic type. First find a super good deal that's going to rent out, and you know it's going to rent for, and then you pencil it out, and then you find private money lender that I put together like a little playbook, and then I would show this to people. Hey, I'm buying it for this, kind of like what you're doing when you're wholesale property. It's the same concept. But I'm giving this to a potential private money lender. And but going back to the rehab portion of it, in the beginning, I would just stick with cosmetic because that's you're not going to get. You might not find it might not be the biggest spread deal, but it's going to be a lot easier. So I try to be all in on a property at 75% of the ARV. So I determine what the ARV fixed up value is, what it's going to appraise for, because I'm going to refinance it eventually, and then I try to be all in at 75% or less. Right? There's no, I mean, you
Even
shouldn't be.
still, 75% or less, even still, because I've heard people say AVV after virus value.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd still, I mean, I might take a 5 or 10% haircut on ARV now when I'm looking at what the ARV would be,
Are
because
you
we're in a.
adding any prices on construction costs, like as far as materials and things? Because
So
assuming things are going to go up
no,
because of inflation.
I basically just go, okay, I'm buying it for 20 grand. I don't know, 25 grand, whatever the number is, 50 grand. Um, let's say I'm buying it for 50 grand and I need to put in 15,000. So that means I'm all in at 65,000. And, hypothetically, that property, you know, would have to appraise 25% higher than that. Right. So if I'm all in at 65,000, right? So then it's got to be 16th. It would have to be appraised for at least 81,250, right? Because then I know because I can refinance at 75%. I mean, obviously the bigger the spread, but the better. So I'm all in it. So at the end of the day, I created. I mean, just on a high level, I created 25% equity. So and that property, because I'm buying in a cash flowing market, in my mind should at least rent for, $1,200, right? So it's
Right.
like almost it's
Makes
almost
sense.
2x the cash in. And then what I'll do is then I'll go and I'll figure out, okay, I'm borrowing $65,000, right? And I'm going to borrow that money so I'll take 65,000 times 10%. So it's 6,500 a year. Divide that by 12. So my payment is 541 for an interest only monthly payment. And then whatever taxes are, let's say taxes, because these states their taxes are higher. Let's say it's 125 a month, and then $60 a month for insurance. That puts me at 60. That puts me at 726. I'm getting $1,200, and then I back out my property manager's fee, and then a vacancy factor, and then on this deal, so 726, I'll back out $100 for that, so I'm at 826. Um, so then 1,200 minus 826. So that is paying me essentially 374 per month cash flow
Right.
after paying everybody, and that's paying me with how much money out of my pocket? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
So that's the model I like. And then now I stabilize it, keep it for a year or two, then I refinance with like a 30-year portfolio loan. So I just did that with none of my own money. So that's basically how I look at it, right? Like because in the beginning stages, until you have a lot of cash in hand, you have to leverage. So so at the end of the day, then when I go to refinance it, I get a better rate and term, right? And then my payment, then my cash flow increases to 500 or 480 a month on that one property, all with none of my own money.
Right. And you just add
So
into your portfolio.
yeah, yeah. And then the hope is that you then lock into a 30-year loan. You start paying down some people might make double payments to pay down the loan. I don't, but you just go into a 30-year fixed loan and then you know, watch the market. Maybe at some point, maybe 5 years down the road, let's say you have a couple of these, maybe you sell them strategically, and then you take the gain and you can 1031 exchange them into a multifamily property. Maybe I sell 10 houses. Now I have $250,000 of equity, and that becomes my down payment into this 100-unit property. And I've done that all without my own money. But you got to start with one and then progress. But that's kind of the model. I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. Like I can do this, right? Like because a lot of the problem is you don't have the money. Well, I just solved that problem. And then I came up with Bird 2.0, I call it, and that's where I do the same strategy but with 2 to 4 unit properties. So the idea on the Bird 2.0 is that I find properties that, let's say it's a fourplex and two of the units are rented, and then I calculate it, and let's say those 2 units. So then I borrow purchase price plus rehab from a private money lender, and then those 2 units are already paying the mortgage, right? It's going to cover that. So from day one, you're already broke even. So you're not worrying about feeding that. Because what happens with a lot of investors, they get too many flips, too many things going on, and then they run out of cash. This
Right.
will, you're not going to run out of cash this way because you borrow purchase price plus rehab, and it's already cash flowing to pay the mortgage payment, pay the investor, and then you rehab the property. Now you have a property, then the cash flow goes up, refinance it out. So I call that Bird 2.0 specifically for 2 to 4 unit properties.
I like that. And
Yeah.
and and when do you refinance? How
Whenever
soon? How soon? How soon do you, I guess?
it
I guess
depends
that's
on.
a different kind of question.
So it depends. Like if you're self-employed and like you run a lot of losses, it's harder to refinance with the bank. Um, Up until COVID-19, we had portfolio loans, so I could take 2 or 3 of these and do one loan, and it was easy. But now the rental loans are mostly on halt right now. So you're kind of in a waiting period. They're going to come back. So like I would project, I would just say try to get the money as long as you can from the private investor. So this way you're not, because if you're like you're trying to do it in 6 months, yes. Can you do it in 6 months? Yes, but you don't want to put the financial stress of having to pay your investor back. So set the expectation. Hey, can I borrow the money for a year or two? Are you comfortable doing 2 years? I'll probably pay you back in a year, but I like having the flexibility of paying you off. I already have an asset that's going to cash flow, so you're going to get your payment. So I'm making 400 or 500 bucks a month rental income, net rental income. And a lot of these people are happy making 10%, right? Because if you put your money in Bank of America, you're getting, nothing. So the key though is to also like really value and put the investor first, because you don't
Right.
want to, you know, I mean, things happen. Things happen. I've lost money on flips, and it's not fun. I mean, I think pretty much everybody I know has lost money on a flip. I mean, if somebody says they've never lost money on a deal, it's pretty hard to believe. But I mean, I'm sure there are.
Or
But
they haven't done enough.
right. But if you're doing a lot of flips, you're going to lose money once in a while. But you always got to make your investor whole. And that's the thing. People over time they go, wow, like I could put my money with Corey, and he gets me all the paperwork, everything's done, and I don't have to worry about it. I get my check, automatically sent to my Wells Fargo account or whatever. And the more relationships you have like that are critical now more than ever, because now is when those relationships are more important. When the hard money lenders are not lending as much, you want these private lenders. Now, to go circle all back to hard money lending, the mom and pop type funds now are the ones that are shining, because they're what we call balance sheet lenders, right? They have their own fund, they keep the loans, they don't sell them off. So there's still abundance of those. So that's like, when you're looking for financing, depending on what area you're in, you want to get those localized people too, the localized funds, and then you can also have the international, or the the giant funds too, because some of them are still lending.
Right. And it's just about knowing your buying power, right? It's about knowing your buying power. How much capital do you have access to so that you can take advantage of the opportunities that you see. Now we both left San Francisco Bay Area. We're like evacuee. No, we fled.
Yeah,
We fled. What made you leave? Was it real estate related or was it more something
sure,
different?
sure. So I think you're going to see a shift like this more so than ever. So I looked at it, living in Waller Creek, the house I just bought here for $380,000. I got a 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 2,700 square feet. I can work out of my house. Plus, I like it here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've always liked living here for whatever reason, because
Remember,
I've
yeah.
always had a second house out here. This same house in Walnut Creek would be a million three, maybe million four. All right, and like, let's face it, I live here. Mortgage is a third of what it would be. There's no state tax. Everything costs less here. So I think you'll see a big shift, especially with this COVID. More people are going to be doing face to face, Zoom, and working. These tech companies are like, hey, these guys are more efficient working at home. So you're going to see a migration pattern of people that say, you know what, I can go live in Savannah. It's a nice place, but before I couldn't, because my job wouldn't allow for me to live there, or I could go live in Vegas, and my corporate office is in LA, and I could take the high speed train when it's built to work, right? So you're going to see more of that. So that's what I looked at. I looked at like, let's lower my expenses. Um, let's have better tax advantages, better cost of living, and it's perfect.
And
Yeah,
it's a flight away. It's a flight
yeah,
away.
and yeah. I mean, I've been talking to more people now than ever, because I'm just using online,
Right.
and so that's the key too. It's like I need to do this more, like in Indiana. I need to go and start networking face to face or through Zoom with more realtors and wholesalers, especially as the market opens up more, and there's more motivated sellers.
So I got a question from Jonathan. He said our biggest issue with, and I'll let you, I'll let you go, man. Is our biggest issue with finding our first flip, right now, is not knowing what our price range is, because we don't know what financing requirements we can get, and we have 40,000 sitting in our LLC's checking account with tons of training under their belts. They have 800 plus credit score, but it seems like they need even more capital to get started. Do you have any advice for Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan, you're right. Like back in the day, you could go and buy something for 150,000, and put down 15%. So that's 22,500, and then you'd have, a little less than 20 grand left, but you got closing costs. So realistically now you're at the 100,000 price point. Buy something for 100,000, put down 25%. That's 25 grand, right? And then you got 5 grand in closing costs. So you got 10 grand. So you can't, your buying power is minimal. My question to you is, you know, um, sounds like you have a W-2 job. So maybe what you do is your first property might be a burr, or maybe it's a wholesale deal. I don't know if, because if you can burr it and you got solid W-2 income and you can debt ratio, you can go and you take it down with hard money um, loan, and then maybe it's a lighter rehab, and then you burr out of it, get your money back, and then that might be a suggestion. Or you wholesale and build your nest egg up a little bit, or bring in a partner. I mean, you could buy something for 100, because you're gonna need 25% down plus uh, closing costs plus debt service. So, maybe it's wholesaling. I mean, when I started, I had no money, so I just had to find partners. Find somebody that likes what you're doing, knows, likes, and trusts you, and will be your financial friend. We call it building your financial friend network. And maybe you have to give up 50% of the profits. No big deal, because you're getting this, you're getting the experience. Just make sure you get the paperwork done right and so forth, get the right partners. But maybe that's what you have to do. I did all my deals in the beginning with none of my own money by creatively partnering with the right people. But essentially, you could buy something subject to and then bring in the cash and then sell it. You could buy it on a lease option, and you could buy it with seller financing. And then this way you don't even have to get a hard money loan. There was ways of doing it. Just right now, I would say look for a really good deal. Don't buy anything just to buy something, because we're in a market that maybe the knife's falling a little bit still. We don't know where it's going to wind up, but get started. Yeah, there's ways of getting started. It's just, I mean, sometimes what we do is we analysis paralysis, and I've done that. And one is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to do, is flip properties, or what's the goal? I mean, that's what you got to figure out first, because maybe burring is a much easier model, easier to find deals, easier to structure things. I mean, there's Airbnb arbitrage, where you can, lease properties, and then uh, you know um, master lease them, and then furnish them, and put tenants in. I mean, there's a lot of ways of getting started with no money. Just maybe flipping is more capital intensive than you should be doing right now. But then again, you could start, or if you're buying in Savannah, I mean, I know there's entry level. I would be like, if I came to Savannah, I would say, Corey, show me like the gentrifying neighborhoods that like are still cheap, but like people are starting to redo. And I'd go there and I'd start buying junkers and I'd cut my teeth on one of those. In the lower, economic areas that are starting to come around, and because you can pick up stuff for super cheap, and those type of deals, they're more willing to seller finance. And then also look for a localized hard money lender in Savannah that's like, somebody with, maybe 500, $1 million, and likes to fund deals and gets to know you and says, yeah, I'll fund the deal, and I'll fund it, and maybe I'll split profits with you. There's a lot of options. It's just, you got to explore those and find those people.
That's awesome. He's loving it. He's loving it. Well, Beau, man, I appreciate you jumping on, giving our members in the group, these investors here, some really solid game from the 20 years plus that you've been doing it. And I appreciate it. I really, really do, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you for bailing me out of those technical difficulties from the beginning. I figured it out. So, but let's talk soon. I'll be in touch. And if anybody needs anything from Beau, or I'm pretty sure I know we talked earlier before this call, like a week or two ago. What can you do uh, if there's anything that you can do to help people in investing here in Georgia? I know
Sure.
you have some reach, and then also with your brokerage, if anybody, because it looks like Jonathan's wife is a realtor. So I know you have some things for realtors that you can potentially bring on to help with their investing side of things also.
Sure, just reach out. If I can't do it, I'm going to refer you to who can do the loan. So feel free to call or text me. It's the easiest. 925-852-8261. 925-852-8261. And I'll refer you. Like somebody called yesterday, she had a deal in Carolinas, and I'm like, well, I couldn't do it because it was her first deal and she was looking. And I said, call this group. They're in the Carolinas because they're local to you. Maybe they'll do it. They'll do it because they're local, right? Because the institutional funds won't lend on a first flip. Right now with COVID. Pre-COVID we had money for you, but right now it's a little tough.
Right, right. So well, perfect, perfect. Well, you guys reach out to him definitely. If you have a deal, and I'm pretty sure he'll answer your questions. But that's why I'm throwing this up here so that the community can learn. If he talked about what he looks for and what companies are looking for. So you have a good one, Bo. I appreciate it, and talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Bye bye.
Yes.